materials he wants to buy. And he's got the best people in the world working for him.
What is it today?
One of the great things about Batman is that he has access to Lucius Fox and his department where they come up with all these amazing gadgets.
Here we are. Carry on utility harness. Gas powered magnetic tackle gun. The 350-pound test monofilament.
As envisioned by comic book creator Bob Kane in 1939, Batman was originally more of a super sleuth than a superhero. In fact, his first crime-fighting gadgets were not much more sophisticated than standard lockpicks, passkeys, and an occasional blast cutter.
He was always on the cutting edge, but, you know, the cutters were probably the cutting edge in 1939.
Much of the early stories were technology convenience of what people knew. Comic books were written for kids in the early days. They assumed the audience was 10 to 12 years old at best, and they weren't worried about addressing the technology at the time because they didn't figure the kids understood the technology at the time.
There were smoke pellets, gas bombs, things blown open like they're able to disable or confuse. These are the traditional weapons that Batman's able to pull out in order to achieve what he needs to achieve.
There was one weapon Batman refused to carry for crime-fighting history: a gun.
He didn't carry a gun for very long because somebody quickly realized it was contrary to who and what he was. Here's a character whose parents had been killed by guns. A gun was anathema. It was something he really didn't want to touch. It was what had made him who he was. And it's much more heroic to solve the problem without simply being able to shoot the villain, than to use your wits and your other abilities.
Instead of packing heat, Bruce Wayne used more innovative crime-fighting methods. Methods that became increasingly sophisticated over the years. In 1940, for example, Batman used infrared night vision goggles, a technology being developed at the time by the U.S. Navy.
Night vision is heat vision. It's really what it is. You think about light, everyone's familiar with the spectrum of red, yellow, green, blue. There's also different spectrums that we can't see. And infrared is what we refer to when we're talking about the type of radiation you get from heat. So any hot body will emit this type of radiation, and you can design cameras to detect it. And so night vision is basically looking at that radiation. Batman has lots of gadgets. The great thing is that many of them are all small enough to fit in his utility belt. And making things small can be a challenge. But it's not technologically impossible, and that's driving a lot of technology these days. How can we make things smaller and smaller and still function the way we want them to?
One early gadget Batman had in his utility belt was a miniature camera. The device was inspired by the ones actually being used by spies in the years prior to Batman's debut.
Clandestine photography goes back into the 1930s with the commercial Minox camera. This was a camera that was invented in 1934 by a Latvian engineer by the name of Walter Jass. His idea for the camera was a camera that could be held in one hand. But if you're not very dexterous with this camera, it does take two hands to cycle the film. Now, in the commercial world, that's not an issue. But in our world, that draws attention, and we don't like that. Our challenge is to make a camera that can be easily concealed in one hand, small enough that it can be easily palmed. We want to be able to easily manipulate it with one hand, and while we're at it, we're CIA, we're always going to try to process and improve. We're going to make ours take twice as many shots. This is the camera that did it. This is the agency's first sub-miniature document copy camera. A camera like this is like one Batman might have in his utility belt.
In the late 1940s and early 50s, as the world entered the atomic age, Batman's use of real science literally rocketed into the realm of science fiction.
In the 50s, a lot of the fiction was very science fiction based. So, you know, Batman had ray guns. They flew in spaceships and things like that. It's just reflective of the times.
In Batman number 109, the Caped Crusader used a heat ray to detonate explosives floating in Gotham City Harbor. It seemed far-fetched at the time, and was. But believe it or not, the U.S. military is currently working on just such a device to add to its arsenal.
A heat ray is a low-frequency infrared light, and the Army today is developing weapons based on heat rays, much like the one that Batman used.
My. You little snoring ass. You little snoring ass, little piggy. Look at you. Sound like a little pig snoring. Huh? People know you snore like a human. Look at that tail wagging. Look at Miss Pretty sitting over there. Well, folks, I'm not feeling good. Came down with something. I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling like shit. These dogs are tripping me out, especially little Bella here. They should have named her a little Hyper. She could run her ass off. I got to get her back on tape. I had a good tape and I didn't save it, and I feel like shit. But anyway, just letting you check it out. See, the animals are okay, and me trying to get well. Not even on the computer. Well, I'm going to upload this video. That's all I'm going to do. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Say bye. And this is titled, My Snoring Like a Little Pig. Look at her. She went right back to sleep. But she's tired. Little Bella here ran her out. I'm Bella. Bella. Hey, Bella. Okay, well. Hey, butthead. Look like a little fucking deer. Well, let me go before they tell me this one is too long to load. Say goodbye. Bye. Leave me the fuck alone.